My name is Thomas Rayner, and if you're hearing this, it means I've failed. This is not a ghost story, it's a warning. 15 years ago, I left a village called Black Hollow after the sudden disappearance of my parents. I was just 13. The authorities called it an accident. They said my parents must have gotten lost in the forest behind the old church. But I remember things differently. That night, I heard the church bell ring once. That might not sound strange, except that the bell tower had been sealed since 1887. I returned to Black Hollow last autumn after my aunt, Eleanor, passed away. She had lived alone in a small stone cottage just outside the village. She left everything to me in her will: keys, property, journals, and one final note: don't stay past the 13th toll. I thought it was poetic nonsense until I got there. The village hadn't changed much. It was still surrounded by fog-drenched woods, the roads narrow and worn. The people were distant, not unkind, just hesitant. They glanced over their shoulders when I walked by. At the pub, conversation stopped when I mentioned my name. No one spoke of the church. No one mentioned the bell. On my second night there, I was woken by a deep, single dong. It was 3:13 a.m. The sound didn't come from a clock. It was too old, too heavy. It echoed through the woods, through the walls, and deep into my chest like a distant earthquake. I stared at the ceiling until dawn. Over the next week, I started noticing strange things. The forest always seemed closer than before, creeping toward the edge of my aunt's garden. The birds were silent. At night, the wind carried whispers that didn't belong to any living voice. Every night at the same time, 3:13 a.m., the bell rang once. I asked Gerald, the old man who ran the pub, about it. He stiffened. His eyes drifted to the window like he was listening for something. "You don't ask about the bell," he said. "Some things remember being forgotten. Some things ring their own name." I didn't know what that meant, but I soon found out. One rainy afternoon, I was sorting through my aunt's things when I found a thick, leather-bound journal. Her handwriting was frantic, notes scribbled across pages, drawings of the bell tower, sketches of a tall figure with no face. Her last entries were disturbing. "He rings when the forest stirs. Each toll marks a soul. Don't let the rope pass through your hands." And then finally, underlined in red ink, "Do not answer the bell." I was haunted by the sound every night. I tried wearing earplugs, playing loud music, sleeping during the day. Nothing worked. The toll pierced everything. I began walking in my sleep. I'd wake up in the kitchen, barefoot, or standing by the back door. Once, I found myself just outside the tree line, facing the church in the distance. And then came the worst night. I dreamt I was in the tower. The bell rope was in my hands. My arms moved on their own. The tower was filled with shadows, whispers, rustling. And then I turned and saw him, the Bellringer. He was impossibly tall, dressed in rotting black robes, his face a hollow cavity, like his mouth had been torn open and stretched wide. When he looked at me, I felt the cold of the grave in my bones. I woke up screaming, except it wasn't a dream. My hands were burned, friction marks across my palms, as if I'd been gripping a thick rope. And from that night on, the bell rang twice. Every night. Louder, closer. Gerald came to see me that morning. He looked thinner, frightened. "You rang it, didn't you?" I didn't answer. He sighed and said, "It chooses someone every few generations. The bell needs a voice. Now it's you. You're the Bellringer of Black Hollow." He told me the legend. In 1671, a man named Elias Grimsby became the village Bellringer. When he died, no one was appointed to replace him. The bell tower stood silent until it wasn't. They say Elias rang the bell 13 times on All Hallows' Eve, and opened something beneath the forest, something ancient. Since then, the bell tolls itself once a year, then once a month, then once a week, and now, every night. Each toll marks the possession of its chosen. The 13th toll is the last. That night, I couldn't sleep. I watched the clock, 3:13 a.m. The bell tolled a third time. I screamed into the empty air. I didn't ring it, but it didn't matter. The house groaned. The wind howled. I saw his silhouette outside the window, standing at the edge of the forest, arms hanging at his sides like a broken puppet. I knew I had to end it. Burn the rope. Destroy the tower. Stop the toll before the 13th. I made my way to the church just before midnight on All Hallows Eve. The building was crumbling, overtaken by vines and rot. The heavy wooden doors opened with ease, as if they'd been waiting. Inside, the air was thick and wet. The pews were caked in dust, and high above, the bell loomed like a guillotine. The rope hung straight and taut. I stepped closer. Then I saw the faces, dozens of them, peering from the dark walls, etched in the wood, eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams. One of them was my aunt, another my mother, and then I heard footsteps behind me. The Bellringer. He didn't walk, he glided. He stopped just inches from me, and I realized I could hear the bell inside him, beating like a heart. He raised one bony finger and pointed to the rope. My hands moved on their own. Dong. The fourth toll. Dong. The fifth. I fought with everything I had. Screamed. Bit my tongue. Tried to stop. Dong. The sixth. Gerald's voice echoed in my head. Don't let the rope pass through your hands. I fell to my knees. Blood filled my mouth. I reached into my coat and pulled out the flask of kerosene I'd brought. I splashed it across the floor, onto the rope, into the cracks of the altar. Then I lit a match. The fire caught fast. The Bellringer screamed, a sound like stone breaking under ice. He lunged, but it was too late. The flames tore through the church. I ran. The bell rang again, one final time, as the tower collapsed. Dong. Silence. That was 3 days ago. I'm writing this from a hospital in the next town. The burns are deep, but I'm alive. They say the church was empty when they arrived. No bell, no rope, just ashes. But last night, I woke up at exactly 3:13 a.m., and from deep inside my chest, I felt something echo. Dong. The end.
If you like the story, like the video, subscribe the channel and share your friends.